Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown, episode 39, man. Episode 39.
Yeah, it's amazing how many we've racked up so far.
Yeah, man.
Closing in on a year, I think, in a few months' time.
Are we?
Yeah, I think we started up either in July or August. I mean, we're not quite there, but it's been a while anyway.
Yeah. It's been a fun time, man. It's been a fun time.
Yes, it has. And the fun doesn't stop here. So we're talking Lost in Space, the Netflix original series this week.
Whoa.
Oh, I don't know how to read that. I wonder what our listeners are thinking. They hear that, I'm like, oh shit, what does that mean? You're going to have to find out when we get through the news. But before we get to the news, of course, I know you've got a fun fact lined up for us, don't you?
I've got a fun fact. And I hope it's historically accurate. I think it has. I tried my best to try to make sure it's accurate. But this has got to do with Lost in Space, and from what I can gather, Lost in Space, the television series, it ran for let's see here. It ran from 65 to 68, and it had 3 seasons in that span of time. And if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the, if not the first, to have a 3-season arc as far as a interstellar kind of space opera kind of deal, sci-fi show to have 3 seasons. And it actually aired a year before Star Trek.
Okay, that would be my only counter argument, but you've covered your bases.
Yes, it aired a year before. To be fair, the Star Trek had a pilot that was made in 64, but it did not air until 66.
Okay.
So Lost in Space was almost. It wasn't the first space sci-fi show to ever be aired. There was the Twilight Zone, which dealt with some different things in the 50s and whatnot, and it had a lot of seasons. But that's more of an anthology series versus an adventure series. And then there was also, I think, Buck Rogers and some other shit that came out in the 40s and 50s and such. But they all look like they ran for 1 season, if I'm not mistaken. So either way, Lost in Space is a popular American, historically anyways, it's a popular show, and today we will be covering the Netflix reboot of the series. So
and for clarification, we're not covering the late 90s film reboot, unfortunately. I know it's one of Andrew's favorites, but
it is. We should have totally covered it, but
yeah, maybe if this coincided more with April Fools, we could have done a full episode on it.
Maybe as a bonus episode.
I'm not going to commit to that, but it's certainly an idea that we can float. So, all right, we can get into the news then with How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon 3 has received a title, and the full title is going to be How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen the first 2 movies in this franchise?
I saw the first one. I'm not sure if I saw the second one. Yeah,
I think I'm in the same boat. I'm pretty sure I've seen both. But I definitely remember really liking the first one, and I feel like I have seen the second one. But if you asked me to tell you what it was about, I'd be like, there was a dragon. I think he might have been training in it. But no, I think I'm a fan of this franchise anyway, so I think I'm excited about this third one. At least I remember liking both of them to the best of my recollection. So I'm excited to hear that a third one's coming. From what I understand, this is going to be the final in a trilogy for this franchise. So.
Is that a Pixar show?
No, this is DreamWorks. This is DreamWorks Animation that's done this.
Okay, I gotcha. First one was really good. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think the second one, if nothing else, I think it reviewed pretty well. I think it's pretty well regarded. So certainly, when this one comes closer to coming out, 2019 is when it's going to come out. I'll probably end up revisiting probably the first and second one. It seems like the time to do that sort of thing. So
right.
I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get it's probably a good ways off at this point if we're just getting a title announcement on it, to be fair. But, whenever we do get a trailer or teaser or something like that, then we'll revisit it at that point.
That's it.
All right. Well, we did get a trailer. I actually have a couple we're going to talk about here, but the first one we're going to talk about is for a movie coming out June 22nd, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And this is labeled the final trailer. And it's definitely the most, I think, plot-relevant footage we've seen from this movie. I kind of feel like I watched the whole movie. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, the more footage I see of this movie, the less excited I am for it. Seems like they are taking it in a very similar direction as the, Jurassic Park 2, I think?
I think it's like The Lost World, Jurassic Park 2.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, well, they put the dinosaurs on the ships and bring them over and shit.
Right,
I don't know.
Right.
But I don't know. It just, it looks, I don't know. It doesn't look, I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just looks unnecessary to me. I mean, I get it. I fully get it. I know we've talked about this before, but
it makes money.
Even with a little bit more details on this, in terms of kind of where the plot's heading, I'm not feeling it. I just this whole thing to me just feels very half baked. I'm not a fan of this whole idea of, well, it seems like they're kind of heading in the direction that the first Jurassic World hinted at, of like militarized dinosaurs and stuff like that. And I thought it was pretty ridiculous then. I find it just as ridiculous now. And I don't know if that's exactly where they're heading with it, but it definitely seems to be kind of the way it's going. They're getting away from, granted, the whole idea of it obviously is quite impossible in its own right. The theme park of dinosaurs, terrible idea. I don't, no one would give the funding for that shit, especially a second time. Like you managed it a first time and you fuck it, you're done. It's not happening again. So I guess I should take everything in this universe with a little bit of a grain of salt. But at the same time, I'm just like I don't really like this direction. To me, it doesn't make sense to have Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard back in the. I don't know. I'm going obviously based off of the trailers that we've seen, the footage that we've seen, but I'm just not sold on any of it. I'll go see it, but I'm not sold on any of it. I mean, that's kind of where I stand. It sounds like you're kind of in the same boat. Yeah, no, it doesn't. I heard Jeff Goldblum's voice, and that's comforting. But is that enough to get you to go? I mean, we're going to see it anyway. I'm sure we'll cover it. It's a big movie. It's
Jurassic Park,
potentially going to be one of the biggest movies that this year has to offer. But yeah, I mean, the Jeff Goldblum factor does help. I will definitely concede that.
And you're watching it, and it's just, and then you hear Jeff Goldblum, and there's a glimmer of hope. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll stay tuned. I mean, it's a couple months away, so
yeah.
We got a movie that's a little bit closer to coming out. It's actually just about a month away. Deadpool 2, which has also received a quote-unquote final trailer. I'm a little bit more excited about this one. This one looks far more entertaining to me. I think actually, well, I don't know that they've quite topped the high of the Bob Ross Deadpool, but I think in terms of the actual movie footage we've seen, I think this is probably the best look we have so far in terms of getting me excited for it. I'm really, really enjoying what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, no, it looks like it's gonna be a hysterical movie. I don't know. A couple things happened in the trailer, had me laughing pretty good. He tries to he's blocking the bullets with the sword, chopping them in half, and he stops and he's full of holes. I thought that was pretty funny. I don't know. It's Deadpool, man. He's a pretty funny guy.
Did you recognize that shot of him slicing the bullets in half from anywhere? Look, I'm not going to tell you to rewatch X-Men Origins Wolverine. Just look up that clip on YouTube.
I never saw that.
You never saw that movie?
No, that's the one that you downloaded, I think, and I saw it before any sort of CG.
I would never do such a thing, but if I did, that would be the one that you were talking about. Yes.
And after I watched the no CG, I had no desire to watch the movie, so I never watched it. I know Deadpool never had a mouth. I do know that.
Well, they sew it shut in the end. So he's basically Wade Wilson for the first half of the movie, just like regular human Ryan Reynolds, and then he gets turned into Weapon 11, and they sew his mouth shut. They give him Baraka arm blades and laser eyes from Cyclops. That's not I'm not kidding. That is 100% fact.
and that's why I never saw it.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, then don't. But that particular image of him slicing, that's a one-to-one kind of recreation of a scene from that movie, and it's obviously kind of poking some more fun at it, which they had a little bit of fun with it in the first one. I think there's like a little action figure of Weapon 11 that pops up in the first Deadpool. So
they also had a couple callbacks to DC in this trailer. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like it's gonna be. It looks like it's gonna be fun, man. It's fun to have fun movies. So
yeah. I was say we got another fourth wall break with him calling Cable Thanos. So that's pretty good. And then of course Peter. I think Peter might be the star of the show
with him skydiving.
But no, it looks good. I'm looking forward to it. May 18th is when it comes out. It's kind of sandwiched in between. I guess there's a few weeks now between Avengers and it, but it's the week right before Solo comes out, so it's good for me. It's a good 1-2 punch for us people that are looking forward to Solo, a Star Wars story. I think it's a good 1-2 punch of Deadpool one week and then Solo the next week. But
yeah,
I have faith that I have faith that both will be good, and we'll find out shortly.
That's it, man. I'm excited.
All right, we got another movie that we're going to talk about. It's called Halloween. Now, has the same name as another movie called Halloween, and that's because it's a sequel to that movie. In fact, it is a direct sequel to it. So Halloween, of course, was the John Carpenter horror film starring Michael Myers in it. Not the Austin Powers variety of Michael Myers, but the murderer variety of Michael Myers. So this is a movie that ignores all of the continuity of the 19 Halloween sequels that have happened since the original came out, and this is going to pick up 40 years after the events of the classic movie, and as such, Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back as Laurie Strode. She's reprising her role from the original movie, and like I said, it's a direct sequel. Michael Myers is still around. He's just 40 years older. Laurie's around. She's just 40 years older, and it's going to be directed by David Gordon Green. Co-written by Danny McBride, Kenny Powers himself. Kenny fucking Powers co-writing this.
What?
And I don't know. I mean, it's a crazy combination, but it's happening. Like I said, it's Laurie Strode comes to her final confrontation with Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Halloween night 4 decades ago. So I don't know if I actually said why we're talking about this, but there's a poster for it, and that's why we're talking about it now. So,
how did the first one end? Do you remember?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I feel like I've seen it 10 million times, but I can't remember how it ended.
I don't know. For me, I haven't seen the first one in a long time, and I feel like I've kind of, I don't know, after all the millions of movies that have come out in between that, I've kind of just...
written the series off?
Yeah, I kind of... Well, especially after those fucking Rob Zombie ones. Holy shit, those were bad. Because this isn't... I guess so those are reboots, to be fair. This is technically a sequel, but we did get I mean, this will be the third movie called Halloween.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's not confusing at all. But I know, I feel like, I definitely wrote the series off after those 2 Halloween movies that Rob Zombie did.
So the first one's called Halloween.
Yes.
And then the sequel is also Halloween.
Yes, and also the 2007 reboot, that's also called Halloween.
So whenever you search for this movie in the Googs, you're going to have to put a parenthesis in a year after it?
Well, depending on when you search for it, like if you search for it now, it'll probably bring it the newer one up because that's probably
true.
what you're looking at. But
yeah,
it'll probably bury the Rob Zombie one as far down as it possibly can. So,
all right, man. Yeah, there's a poster out, and it looks like Michael Myers.
Yeah, it's got his face on it. I mean, not his face. It's got William Shatner's face, technically speaking, but it's an aged, weathered Michael Myers mask, and October 19th is when it's coming out. So I mean. I don't really know what to say about this other than it's a very eclectic combination of people working on it, certainly. I think it was announced that John Carpenter himself, the director of the original, I think he also did the music on it, but he's doing the score for this one, so that's kind of cool to see his involvement in it. So I just looked it up. He did do the music for the original as well, so obviously a very iconic theme that I'm sure we'll hear multiple times throughout this upcoming
I like those old school slasher Halloween flicks, man. I like them a lot.
Yeah.
I grew up watching the every they had like 30 Days to Halloween on AMC, and I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies, because they're rated R and such. Mm-hmm. So I would grind out all of those on AMC on the 30 Day of Horror. So I've watched all these the Friday the 13th and
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, all of them. I've seen them all so many times. But yeah, man, fucking slasher movies. I'll watch it. I'll be happy to watch it. So we'll see what happens.
All right, yeah. We'll again keep an eye on this one. I think we'll probably get a trailer for this before long because it's coming out later this year.
And that's a horror movie you seldom get nowadays. Very seldom do you get the slasher flick, man. You know? And what's the last slasher flick you've watched?
That I watched?
Yeah. Or that came out. Can you think of one that recently maybe that came out that you didn't watch?
I don't know. I feel like I still feel like they put some of these out, but yeah, maybe less frequently.
I mean, the last one that I can remember is the one where what was it? It was Friday the 13th, right? Where he threw the axe in that dude's back.
Yeah. Well, they did that. They did a Nightmare reboot as well.
They did. Yeah.
So obviously they did 2 Halloween reboots as well. So I mean, like The Purge. Does The Purge count?
I don't think so, though. You know, that's like a. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a slasher flick.
I saw Happy Death Day last year. That was kind of slasher.
Okay.
Movie.
All right. Well, then there you go. I digress.
So I don't know. I mean, I think they are less frequent. I think you're not wrong in saying that, but I think that it's also one of those things of we probably just don't pay attention to them as much anymore either. You know.
And maybe that's why Danny McBride's attached to it. You know, to have that. You know, maybe it drives that humor that you know, because there was I always feel like there's a certain kind of humor to these kind of movies in a dark, twisted kind of way, you know? Maybe that's why he's attached to it.
In some ways. I feel like they kind of became parodies of themselves after a little while. Certainly, like most of the franchises kind of descended into a kind of slapstick type, environment. I don't think that was necessarily deliberate from the get-go. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case here. The poster to me certainly doesn't imply that it's going for anything, comedic in nature. But like I said, that's why we wait for the trailer. Maybe that'll kind of dictate more kind of what we're going to be getting out of this. So I don't know. We'll, like I said, we'll probably pick up this conversation when we get some more info on it. So. Last bit of movie news, something you actually brought to my attention earlier today before we recorded. We've now had a first look at Tom Hardy suited up as Venom. So this is a leak that I think came across on Twitter. Basically, I guess they showed, Sony, of course, showed a new trailer at CinemaCon in Las Vegas, and someone kind of has like this off-screen camera grab of him finally suiting up, which was something we didn't see in the first trailer that they released. So I think we talked a little bit about the rumor that he was only going to be in costume at the tail end of the movie. So has Sony shown us the last scene of the movie?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I see why they didn't include the costume in the first half. I don't know. It isn't. You like that costume? You like that look?
It's okay. I think it's. I think that having just that literal footage at the end of the first trailer that we got, I think would have dispelled a lot of the major criticism. So I think it was still a huge mistake to not put anything in it to at least kind of show what they're kind of doing with the costume. I don't love the look personally. I think it's probably better than the Spider-Man 3 Topher Grace look, but it doesn't look quite right to me. The voice doesn't sound quite right to me. I'm not the first one to mention it. I've seen it thrown about a line that it looks very Spawn.
Yes,
and
I was waiting for you to slow down because I was going to say that.
That is definitely something that I get out of it. Just in terms of the look and feel of it, it definitely seems very Spawn, which is not a comparison I would like to be included in personally.
How about the him staring at that dude with his mouth open and his tongue getting longer coming towards his face? I don't know. I mean that's very Venom. I mean that's just Venom. That's just what Venom is. So I mean I'm very pessimistic about this movie in general. My first feeling when I saw this was just like, okay. I didn't get excited by it. It was just a very glum response of, well, I guess that's Venom, isn't it? But
I don't know. I mean, I've seen some people online that like this. I can get nitpicky about it, but at least in some incarnation, we are getting a symbiote suited version of a Venom with lots of teeth. Don't get me wrong, a very large amount of teeth, and the tongue lashing about, which it's very Todd McFarlane. So I don't know. It's I don't know. I think there's supposed to be another trailer that is supposed to be getting released publicly within the next week or so. So again, maybe this is another one we can hold off on and wait to see this in kind of maybe full resolution, assuming that it's going to be part of that trailer, and see how it looks, with a little bit better look at it. So I don't know. I'm still not excited for it, but I'll still probably see it.
Like, I think if I was making a Venom costume, and I'm not a designer or anything like that, obviously, but I think I'd prefer a more visceral, like, organic looking thing. You know what I mean? And not that, I don't know, just like shit flinging off everywhere, and just kind of like dripping, messy looking. I think that looks cool, but I don't know.
But that's not really Venom.
At the same time, though, things
like that's Carnage. That's Carnage's look. So I kind of feel like I don't agree with you on that. Like the Ultimate Venom is very, you see the tendrils kind of flaring out and stuff like that. But I think that's kind of Carnage's unique signature is that he, it's always kind of constant in motion. The tendrils kind of moving about, things kind of like slipping and sliding off them. So Venom's always had more of a concrete, I feel, look to him.
Spider-Man suit with black and white, pretty much just beefed up.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I mean, this it looks like Venom to me, but I said it just wasn't anything that got me like really excited about it. So
I don't know. I think you could translate it to the screen differently, but we'll see what happens, man. It's only potato cam footage. Things can get ironed out, or potentially it looks a lot better, and decent quality and a lot bigger and everything else, So. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, TV news. Let's keep this thing moving. Stranger Things 3 has a couple new cast members, first of which is Cary Elwes, who is playing Mayor Klein, a handsome, slick, and sleazy politician more concerned with his own image than the people of the small town he governs. And Jake Busey is also joining as Bruce, a journalist for the Hawkins Post with a questionable set of morals and a sick sense of humor.
I like Jake Busey. I think he'll be great. That sounds good. I'm all about it.
Yeah. I don't have much to say on that.
Yeah.
Good to see some new cast members. Looking forward to Stranger Things 3, of course. And I think two good additions to the cast, certainly. So looking forward to see where those characters go. Sounds like good characters from the descriptions of things. And we'll see how they entangle with the other residents of Hawkins. All right. Netflix. Actually, we've got a lot of Netflix stuff this week, don't we? But another Netflix-related thing that we have is there's been a date announcement for the second season of G.L.O.W., the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. It's coming June 29th. I have watched the first season. Don't think you have. So
no.
I can certainly say that I thought the first season was a lot of fun, very funny, good cast. Alison Brie is the lead. Mark Maron is kind of the male lead in it. Not like a romantic lead. He's kind of a jackass that kind of corrals these ladies into forming a wrestling TV show, and it's good fun. It's a half-hour comedy show, so I think that if you're looking for a show to get into, it's a good one to kind of pick up and get through very quickly. I think it's 10 episodes, I want to say. So,
yeah,
I think it's a good length. Netflix has a big problem with length, and content being too long and undeservedly long. So I think this is one that definitely avoided that issue entirely. So definitely recommend it. You got a couple months till June 29th. So at least check out maybe a trailer or something for it. This date announcement here was just kind of the girls doing a little music video jig to Maniac by Michael Cimbello from the movie Flashdance, which was good fun, but it doesn't really tell you a whole lot about the show. But
right.
It's definitely worth checking out, I would say.
Yeah. I'll look into it, man.
Mm-hmm. Another show on Netflix that I think is worth checking out. Both of us checked it out on this very podcast. That's David Fincher's Mindhunter, which is getting season 2. and it'll be coming 2019 sometime, but we've got some more information on it. We know a little bit more plot details on it. I think we might have touched on this a little bit at the tail end of our Mindhunter episode, but I'll say it again here just to kind of refresh both of our minds, because it's been a good little while since this show came out. Season 2 is going to focus on the Atlanta child murders of the late 1970s and early 80s, which featured the relatively uncommon case of an African-American serial killer that was tried, convicted, and sentenced to life imprisonment for killing 2 adult men, but was apparently never convicted of 23 murders of young children. So I guess it's inspired by that. It's not necessarily going to be just that. So I didn't spoil the entire season for you. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But it's going to be 8 episodes instead of 10, which again is a good way to kind of get away from that usual Netflix problem of things being overlong.
Right.
And the directors of this have been announced. So David Fincher did the first 2 and the last 2 of the first season. He's going to be directing again some of the episodes on this. He's going to be doing the first and last episodes of this season, and the rest of it is going to be filled in by Andrew Dominic, who directed the assassination of Jesse James and Killing Me Softly. And the rest of it's going to be directed by Carl Franklin, who is a TV director that's worked on things like The Leftovers and 13 Reasons Why, another Netflix show. So, yeah, looking forward to season 2, certainly. I think season 1 was quite good. And more David Fincher in my life, I would argue, is always a good thing. So
Absolutely.
There's something that there will be no more of in our lives, and that is Ash versus Evil Dead, which unfortunately has been canceled by Starz. So it had 3 seasons.
One of which I watched.
Mm-hmm. So you could probably speak a little bit more on this, but I think it was one of those shows that was always struggling in the ratings, was always kind of on the cusp of cancellation, but it was kind of a cult hit, more of a fan favorite that didn't really translate into, TV success, at least as far as the networks are concerned. So it's kind of sad news, because it's fucking Bruce Campbell playing Ash, and for fans of Evil Dead, like, that's awesome. And so I haven't watched it, so I guess I'm part of the problem. But I do own the first season of it on Blu-ray, just haven't gotten around to watching it. So I'll certainly get around to watching all 3 seasons at some point. My understanding is that the showrunners kind of suspected it was going to be it, so I think that it's written in a way that the 3rd season kind of would be a satisfying conclusion for all of it. So
yeah, well, I hope I can definitely see how it struggled, and it's certainly probably not for everybody, So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of just a niche. I think audience for it, So Bruce Campbell has said on Twitter that he is now retired from playing Ash. So I guess that's it.
Fuck.
So you got 3 movies and 3 seasons of a TV show. So that ain't a bad run, in the scheme of things. So
well,
and plus there's of course the remake,
which is pretty fucking awesome. But no Ash.
Which is it's very good in its own right. I think, don't we hear his voice in the credits or something like that? So there's like a very subtle kind of connection to it.
Is there?
I think there is. I think he just says like groovy or something like that. I think he says something like that in the credits. I could be mistaken. I think there's some sort of nod to him. Maybe it's after the credits or something. But anyway, there was always the rumor that they were going to do a connection between like an Army of Darkness 2 that was going to be connection between the remake and the original trilogy, which I'd say at this point is definitely a pipe dream. I think that ship has definitely sailed, but I think we got this instead. I think that was kind of what happened, is that they were going to possibly do a movie, and instead it kind of morphed into this TV show. So I haven't watched it. I definitely will watch it, but like I said, it's a good run, so it's hard to complain too much. So we can move on then. Yeah,
totally, let's do it.
All right, so we got a few trailers for some new TV shows coming out this year. First of which is another Netflix show by the name of Safe, which stars Dexter's Michael C. Hall. It's about him unearthing some dark secrets about the people closest to him,
and then he murders
his teenage daughter goes missing. He might murder him. I don't know. I mean, he might have that need to kill.
Was that Dexter's? Yeah, was that Dexter's MO?
I think he had like a dark urge within him to murder people, and then he was able to channel it into killing people that were like criminals and stuff like that. So they were quote unquote deserving of being murdered. So I think that was kind of the Dexter thing of it. What did you think about this trailer?
Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens with it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty truncated. I didn't really get a good feel for kind of what it's going for, but I like Michael C. Hall, and I liked the first 4 seasons of Dexter.
I never watched any of them. I don't know any of it.
It's a show that went way too long and didn't know how to end things. So I think people look back on it fondly, at least for kind of the first few seasons, because I think they are pretty good. But it's definitely one that if you ever take the plunge on it, not just you, but any of our listeners ever feel compelled to take the plunge on Dexter, honestly, just cut yourself off after season 4. I know it's a tough thing to do, to kind of just leave 4 seasons unwatched, but you will not regret it.
Has to be done.
Because you will regret it if you watch past that. Yeah, it's definitely one of those kind of shows. So, all right. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say on it as well. May 10th, it's coming out pretty soon, so we'll probably get some reviews and stuff for it. So, if I hear good things about it, I might give it a look or something like that. Otherwise, it'll probably just go on the watch list and probably get buried by more and more things that Netflix puts out.
That's it. There's a lot of it.
Yeah. Another thing we got a trailer for is the HBO limited series Sharp Objects, starring Amy Adams, based on the book by Gillian Flynn, who was the author of Gone Girl. It's about a reporter that returns home to cover a grisly murder. So, like a minute-long teaser here. Didn't really give plot details or anything like that, but I thought it looked visually interesting, at least. It's another one that I don't really have a great read on it, I guess.
Yeah, it can go a lot of different ways. It does have Amy Adams, though. She's pretty cool.
That's a plus. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Like all things without a lot of information, we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, what else can you do?
That's it.
There is nothing else to do. And there's no point in hyping yourself up over something that you don't have much information on. So, I mean, I guess we could read the book in this case and see if we like the book, but are we really going to do that? No, of course not.
No.
All right, last trailer I wanted to talk about was another Netflix series. God, Netflix is putting so many things out. It's insane.
Yeah.
This is a series called The Rain. So it's a Danish series. So it's filmed in Danish. It's coming out May 4th. Well, I know that's a turnoff for some people. It's like, oh my God, foreign language, subtitles, I'm out. So I figured I'd make it very obvious what this is. It's about a brutal virus that wipes out most of the population and picks up with 2 young siblings that embark on a perilous search for safety. And the virus apparently comes from the rain, which is interesting. But I think this is probably the one that I got the biggest read on from the trailers that we've talked about with the TV shows, because it's a little bit longer than the others.
Yeah, it was very clear
look and feel of it. Yeah, so I thought it looked interesting.
Yeah,
it's coming out May 4th, so it's again one of the it's a couple weeks away. It's crazy that they just drop trailers for shit like, oh, by the way, this is happening in 2 weeks. Bye. So I don't know. It's another one I don't think I'll necessarily watch immediately, but it looked interesting enough to, again, get added to my list. And maybe if I find some time, then I might, give it a look, or maybe I'll accelerate my desire to watch it if it reviews well. So
the ever expanding backlog.
It's always expanding because there's too much content. It's hard to filter through it all. So, the whole wait and see approach is good because it helps you filter through it. So
yeah.
Last bit of news, possibly my favorite of the week. I'm not sure yet. A new series is headed to Netflix, and it's probably one of the best franchises in existence. It's Fast and Furious, baby. It's heading to Netflix in the form of an animated series.
It's so totally ridiculous.
Oh, hold on. You haven't heard the best part yet. It's going to follow the footsteps of Tony Toretto, cousin of Vin Diesel's Dom Toretto, who gets recruited by a government agency to infiltrate an elite racing league that serves as a front for a nefarious crime organization bent on world domination.
Fuck, man.
Tell me that doesn't sound incredible.
No, it's ridiculous. I'll. Is there any sort of art? I mean, do we know what kind of animated series this is?
I don't know. There's a picture here in the Deadline article, and it looks like kind of like a 3D rendered show, but I don't know if that's necessarily indicative of the look of it. So
I don't know. I guess we'll see how it goes. But, jeez.
Why not, right?
Why not? Netflix buys everything else. Why not buy this?
It's incredible. Just incredible. You cannot make this shit up.
Is DreamWorks putting this out?
Yes, DreamWorks Animation is the one working on this. So,
Lord have mercy. All right, well, we have that to look forward to. When's it coming out? Do you know?
I don't know if there's any date set for this just yet.
Well,
I don't think there's a whole lot of details on it, so I would say probably 2019 at the earliest.
Keep your ears to the ground, people. We got a Fast and Furious series coming out. Woo! Mm-hmm. All right.
Mm-hmm. Real good. All right. I think that is quite enough news for 1 week. And I think it's high time that we talk about the Netflix original series Lost in Space. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
We're going to do it then. It's developed by Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless. Showrunner is Zach Estrin. It is based off of the 1965 series created by Irwin Allen that you so graciously spoke on earlier this episode.
Yeah.
Stars Molly Parker, Toby Stevens, Maxwell Jenkins, Taylor Russell, Mina Sundwall, Ignacio Sariccio, and Parker Posey. And it tells a story about the Robinson family, who after crash landing on an alien planet have to fight against all odds to survive and escape, but they find themselves surrounded by hidden dangers. We might even say that they're surrounded by dangers, Will Robinson.
Yeah.
So, Lost in Space, the Netflix original series. I ended up binging this over the span of a couple of days. I watched 6 yesterday, and I finished the back half of it, the latter 4 today.
Bless your heart, man.
So it's very fresh in my mind. I had to watch this in a very compressed time frame. I don't know that I would recommend that to anyone. We'll get into it, but I think you had a little bit more time to get into it yourself. So I'll let you kind of begin with your general thoughts on this show.
I did. I binged 5 episodes the week prior to us covering it, and then I watched the last 5 Saturday or Sunday or whatever it was.
So you did a split binge, I guess. It's not too different.
I did a split binge. I did not intend to split binge it. I kind of didn't feel like revisiting it. To be honest,
you kind of just needed to push through it, right? To get to the end and say, I've done it now. I can call it a day and move on to bigger and better things.
That's it. Predominantly God of War. But either way, I digress. My first impression, within like the first little bit there was, holy shit. Probably the first episode, I guess, as a whole. Holy shit, Netflix spent some money. Like, I don't know what the numbers are on this show, but I imagine they're quite high. It's definitely a pretty looking show. And I didn't care for this show a whole lot. It was very inconsistent. Mm-hmm. I don't think it ever really peaked out for me and never really got me like super pumped up about anything in particular, but there were intriguing things to think about, here and there. And then it just kind of fluttered out and it didn't really do anything with anything in particular. Thought the ending was cool, but I don't know. It was a pretty, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about the show. Found myself just asking, it was almost like it was the best way I can describe the show for me. My experience with it was almost like white noise while it was on. Like, I didn't particularly care about any of the characters. There was a significant thing that happens the latter half of the show, and I just kind of okay, I guess that happened. And it should have been, I feel like it should have been a significant thing, but it's like, okay, I guess they did that, and It just, it never really, I never got attached to anybody in particular. There was one shitty character throughout the whole show, and it's like, y'all probably should do something with this person, and nothing ever happens, or that's probably the best way to say the show. Nothing happens. It just feels very monotone throughout the whole thing. So I don't know. I don't have high praise for this thing. I feel like I'm talking in circles and not saying a whole lot, so maybe you should pick this up, and maybe I can add to something that you have to say, because I don't, like I said, it was almost like white noise for me for 10 episodes.
Yeah. Look, it's not the worst show I've ever seen, but it's an incredibly frustrating show because the production values are definitely something that you talked about, and I think that it's a damn shame that they pump so much money into the production of this show, but decided to neglect the writing team and just hire some guy that doesn't know how to write, or lady. It could be both. And that to me is kind of where I find faults with this show, is that it's a stupid, incomprehensible at times, baffling at times show wrapped around a really pretty package. And I think that's probably what kept me into it a whole lot, is that it looks really good. I mean, it's just a really strong visual aesthetic to it. And I mean, I think the performances in general are pretty good, most of them. But it just didn't know how to really, I don't know, the pieces just did not come together with this one. I mean, you say I'm going to talk in circles myself too. So let me just work my way through my list of notes that I put down. Otherwise, I'm gonna
stick to the notes. Stick to the notes.
I got to stick to the script on this one. Yeah. Let me just go beat by beat of kind of what my thoughts were, because I organized them before we recorded, and then I started talking, and I'm like, oh god, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. So here we go. Again, production values. I think that the money here. I love the designs of the ship. I love kind of the look and feel of kind of this planet that they get lost on. It doesn't really make sense. The environment that they're in and kind of the things that happen in it don't really make sense. But for me, it's like, whatever, fuck it. It's an alien planet. I can forgive things not making sense or not being scientifically sound or logical or anything like that.
That's like the whole premise of the show. It's almost explained,
Right. Like that, to me, I can just hand wave that immediately. I've seen a lot of people bitching online, like especially within the first episode, we get this conundrum involving one of the main characters. The science behind it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I'm like, whatever. I don't really care too much about that unless it's something that just absolutely is completely... if it contradicts its own logic, I think is probably the biggest thing that I would have an issue reconciling. And I didn't really run into that too much with this show. It's certainly not enough for me to kind of
make a note about it.
That as a big issue or a point of contention for me. So I think that it excels when it is kind of focusing on showing you some cool shit like that, and kind of focusing on big set pieces, navigating the ship, or, they got to fly it somewhere, or, oh, what are we going to do here? We've got these, Land Rovers and stuff that they use, whatever they're called. I watched I watched the entire show probably within close to the last 24 hours at this point, and I've forgotten parts of it. That's kind of the downside of binging, is that a lot of it's in one ear, out the other, especially when it's a show that's not all that great on the whole. But I thought that, there was a lot of really strong set pieces in it, that worked as, very exciting, pieces of cinema to watch. A lot of, situations that they found themselves in were like, they fix one thing and then something else goes wrong and they have to fix that. And then the cycle kind of, repeats and repeats and repeats. And it's, it's, a little silly at times how ridiculous kind of some of the situations are. But I thought that was a good way to kind of at least kind of, deal with kind of the dynamics of the family, the dynamics of the characters. I mean, personally, probably the thing that I point to most immediately is like the mom and dad find them separated in situations way too often, and like, this is a good time to talk about our relationship. I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? But I enjoyed that family dynamic of it. I mean, they're kind of a familial unit that has issues, as all families do. They have issues. They've got 3 kids, including a little shithead named Will Robinson. But I thought that, the whole show has a very wholesome TV PG vibe. And I kind of liked that for it. I felt kind of true to, I think, probably what the 60s show went for. It was probably obviously reflective of the time that it was made, but I think it was trying to go for, family values, wholesome kind of nature to it. And I liked that here. It's obviously updated with a modern aesthetic and somewhat modern sensibilities, but it still kind of very much heavily leans into that. And, kind of making the whole family stick together and struggle through everything together. And I liked that aspect of it. I thought that was good. I thought it was kind of refreshing, especially, a lot of the shit that I watch is pretty dark and gory and, very adult oriented. And this was very much not that. It's a very family friendly show. And I think that if I was 9, this show would be great. But that's kind of the level of writing that it succumbs to, is that it's almost seems like it's catered more towards kids with the hopes that the adults are just doing other shit, like their kids just being an obnoxious asshole in the corner. So they're dealing with that, not focusing on the show, not letting the show bother them with the stupidity that it's containing. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
So that's kind of where I stand with that. I liked most of the cast. I thought that they all did a pretty good job overall.
Yeah,
I thought that
they were good.
I thought that even the kids in general were pretty good.
Uh-huh.
I will say that little Will Robinson reminded me of a certain pilot that I know.
Yeah, man. I'm going to see them all.
I'm a person, and my name is Anakin. He even had the same hair. Like,
he did.
It was
little bowl cut.
He was very Jake Lloyd episode 1 feel to me. Not as bad, to be fair. I will definitely say he was not nearly as wooden as Anakin was in episode 1. But I did at moments get very strong vibes, and he's hanging out with his robot friend. I'm like, oh god, it's Anakin and C-3PO all over again. I don't need this again. I once was enough. But I thought that the other kids were good. I actually liked the younger daughter. Probably was my favorite of the kids. She was just kind of the quippy teenager, but she was kind of awkward, and I liked her as kind of a one-liner spouting character. I mean, none of the characters really had much depth in general. They were all kind of archetypes, and they all kind of, they kind of stayed in their lane. The dad was a stoic military dad. Mom was a, caring mom that was really smart. The oldest daughter was, doctoral candidate and smart, really medically savvy. And I was just like, everyone's kind of got their thing. Will Robinson's a little shithead. That's his thing.
Can't do anything.
Yeah. He's, well, I mean, obviously there's kind of some sort of explanation for
him being a shit.
Why Willie Wobby Win and his little backpack aren't exactly suited for this trip that they're taking. But I liked them. I thought that they worked together good as a family. I thought that the actors kind of, in their respective roles were pretty good. Child actors can be difficult, and Will Robinson, the kid that plays him, Maxwell Jenkins, he's obviously the youngest of the cast, and there's moments where he's fine. There's moments where it kind of, it starts approaching that Charles Wallace type vibe, but I never quite
it's never that bad
out of it. It kind of steers away from that, and usually when it does get close to that, it's because the writing is real bad. So I really liked probably the first half of the show. I thought was significantly better than the last half, because I think the first half really kind of focuses heavily on a discovery aspect. They land on this planet and they're like, what is this? What is that? What is that? See a bunch of weird shit, and I liked that. It's interesting and all that. And then the back half of it kind of gets bogged down in like this human dynamics, kind of dealing with other people. And it's just, for me, it loses a lot of its luster. It felt like it was less interested in the world and more interested in, the interpersonal relationships, and it writes them all very poorly. And so by extension, I'm just not attached to any of these characters, because when they try to lean more into that, they just didn't know how to do it. And I just think the writing in general is just bad. I mean, the characters themselves are way too often just completely incomprehensibly stupid. And the way they act and the way they don't talk to each other about super obvious things, like something happens, should probably let some people know about it, and then they just bottle it up, or they just ignore it until like 3 episodes later and like, oh, by the way, this happened. Like,
and they're supposed to be like the pinnacle of human existence.
Exactly. That's where I find fault with it, is because these people are screened to go up there, so unless everyone's faking it until they can make it, it's like, I just think that for a group of really quote-unquote smart people, these guys are really fucking stupid. Like the family stuff I can somewhat forgive because, families are complicated, and everything out. It's the everything else of it. It's just like, this to me just feels so contrived at times. Like the writers had a very specific plot beat they wanted to get to. They knew how to get from A to C, but they didn't know how to write B, so they just wrote it in the most ham-fisted way possible that ignores logic and ignores any sort of sensibilities and just said, fuck it. And that's frustrating for me. There's a mostly specific cause for a lot of that frustration, and I will get into that in spoilers. I know you've alluded to this person already, but I don't want to get too into it just because I think that to get into it requires a little bit more spoiler territory. So that's kind of where I am with it overall. I enjoyed probably the first half of it decently. I thought it was good fun, and then it just kind of fell off a cliff in some ways. Yeah,
it sounds like you fell off where I quit wanting to, where I kind of lost interest. Episodes 1 through 2 or 3 were pretty decent. I was into it, and then I feel like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the director of the episodes changed after the first 2, maybe?
That's true, yeah. Neil Marshall did the first 2.
And those first 2 were pretty good. And then I think there was a slow decline after the first 2 episodes. So, I don't know. But how would you recommend this show?
Well, so obviously our usual ranking system is very movie inclined. It's talking about, would you see this in theaters and et cetera, and that doesn't really apply to our TV shows. So I thought, we talked about a speculative ranking system on our last episode, our Isle of Dogs episode, and I think that it's time to implement that for our TV show rankings. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, sure, man.
All right, so as it stands, as we established at the end of our last episode, that ranking system, just to get everyone up to speed, is that there's Shithouse, which is, kind of the lower end of the spectrum. There's Totally Fine, which is, I guess, somewhere in the middle. And then there's Yes, and there's Very Yes. This is definitely not any versions of Yes. For me, this is Totally Fine.
There's
a
show.
Times in the show that it's good. It's.
I feel like we had a Totally Fine, and then we had a Fine, and then Shithouse.
Maybe was there a Fine in between? Okay, I'll still go with Totally Fine because I think, I didn't feel miserable watching all 10 episodes of it, and there's just bits and pieces. Like, I think that on the whole, it's an enjoyable show for the most part, but there's just certain things that happen in it that were just so frustrating to me that it brought down the whole experience of it all. And I feel like that just handcuffs it so much that I feel like this is on the cusp of being something pretty good, something worthy of the money that's obviously getting pumped into it, but it just cannot reach that point. So Totally Fine's where I stand. I mean, it's if you're looking for something to watch that's family friendly, it's probably the most recent show that I've watched that's probably leaning in that direction. So maybe from that standpoint, you could get some enjoyment out of that as a family type experience. But I think that,
or if you're a kid.
If you're listening to this and you're a kid, might be up your alley. But other than that, I would say that there's far better content out there that is worthy of your time.
Bingo.
Maybe if you have attachment to the original series, I don't know if that would have impacted my enjoyment in a good or bad way. I can't speak on that, obviously. But I know that it just look. It's fine. It's totally fine. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. So, what do you think?
This is my opinion on TV shows. I don't know what it is about TV shows. I think it's because they demand so much more time than a movie. But I find myself being more critical of shows than I am of movies. Like, I can sit through a very mediocre movie and be entertained for an hour and a half. I don't really have a problem with it. But when I watch a show, it's gotta be good to demand 10 hours of attention. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the CW shows and such. I have a hard time going back week after week after week after week if it's just gonna be okay. I feel like if you're gonna demand 10 hours of my time, you have to be better than okay. And this show, I think, is a notch over shithouse. I'm gonna say it's just fine because there are plenty of other things that I could have done with 10 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not that it's, I don't want to, I got to watch myself because it's definitely not the worst TV show ever made. It's not really bad. It's just, it's a frustrating, I think I've used that word multiple times, and I just feel like it could be so much better. Like, it could.
There's room to grow, there's potential there, and it just feels squandered so many times that
and maybe this is a show with where it ended off. I feel like it because for a couple of reasons. Now it's just we can't even get into it right now. I think the show could. I think a second season might benefit the show. I think it might be more interesting.
I agree.
So I mean, I will revisit it, but at this point, I'm going to say the show. If we keep the 4-way rating system here, I'm going to say it's just fine.
I think we expanded it to 5 ways.
5 ways?
Yeah, you added fine as the notch above shithouse. I think we're at 5 tiers now. So
yeah, okay. Well, then I'm going to say it's fine. You know, it's not that it's bad. It's just that there's no real meat on the bone other than aesthetics to pull you back in. So you want to look at some cool shit for 10 hours? Put this on. You could even mute it, and I feel like you'd get the same result. It's okay. You know, you just, that's a cool looking planet. That's a cool looking flower. That's a cool looking animal. You know, but I just there's just not a whole lot of there. It's a hollow package. And I have it was frustrating for me because it's an experience that doesn't warrant 10 hours, yet it asks for it. So that's my opinion on that.
All right. So spoilers here then. Full spoilers for Lost in Space. I think we can kind of dig in a little bit deeper here. Fuck Dr. Smith. What a terrible character. That single-handedly probably ruined this entire season. I think that you excise that character, you space her immediately, this show improves tenfold, and I'm not joking about that.
No, yeah, she's fucking awful.
She ruins everything she touches. Like, I get it. You want to have a malevolent presence. You want to have a villain character. Cool. Like, I thought that, like, even, like, the douchebag guy that was, like, the leader of the colony, I thought he was a presence that was like, okay, he's a douche, but he's enough of a differing viewpoint that he's somewhat of an antagonist, but he's not like comically over the top like Smith is. Smith is literally a cartoon character in this shit.
Yeah. I think at one point somebody calls her a cartoon character. Don't they?
Maybe. I don't know. It's probably me. Probably heard me talking about it.
Oh, is that what it is?
Bitching at my TV. You got a bug set up in my living room, maybe.
But Homeboy would have made a much more compelling villain and not even a villain, just more of like a brooding kind of, authoritarian kind of guy. Versus,
right, that's what I'm saying. He still added that, and it was things that make sense. The conflict they had of, oh well, we can't save this guy's life because we're going to lose our fuel. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong to say that. I mean, they definitely could have just dug around the guy and pulled it out from under it without rupturing the fuel.
I thought the same
tank,
thing. Yeah, there's a lot of those moments in the show.
And that's I think I kind of talked about it. There's a lot of contrivances here to create problems that don't necessarily need to exist. But at the same time, I can kind of like, whatever. People are stupid in this show. It is what it is, I guess, at this point. But she is the next level of. She's definitely stupid. But I think the problem I have mostly is that no one seems to recognize how
it's fucking
completely
terrible.
Off her character is. Like, she's super suspicious about everything she does. Like half the episodes, I swear, ended on like her saying a line and then like looking at the camera like, "Woo, I'm evil." Woo, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like as the audience, like we get it. We know she's not who she says she is. We get that, and then all the other characters are like, your story doesn't check out, so what's going on with this? And then she's like, oh, well, I mean, she busts out into crocodile tears and like tells this big sob story, and I'm like, no one just immediately like no, here's some more red flags. No one actually responds like that. I'm sorry, you're a psychologist. Okay.
And then dude, she told that one girl, what you have to do is you have to bottle everything up and put it in a box. Don't ever expose anything. Don't ever communicate anything. Always keep that shit in. Motherfucker, what kind of bitch, you're supposed to be the leader of this spaceship and you don't know that's bad advice? What the fuck's wrong with you? I don't know. Just doesn't make sense.
Like I said, like anytime, like she has like a 500-foot force field around her, and anytime anyone steps within it, they just immediately become 10 times dumber. Like, I swear, every time anyone interacted with her, like they just immediately became irrationally stupid. And anytime she did something that was also irrationally stupid, it all worked out perfectly for her.
Right?
Like, and like she just, like, every magical plan she had just magically came together exactly the way that she quote unquote planned it. And I'm like, in this universe where literally everything has gone wrong for a protagonist that can go wrong, how is everything that she does just go so right? Like, I mean, I get it. She's the bad guy. Okay, I get it. But it's just like,
come on,
they throw
man.
out any sort of logic with her character anytime they get a chance to. And they get a chance to do it like 17 times per episode, and it's incredibly frustrating. The character for me is just so over the top that it's irredeemable. And my hope is that if they do continue with the second season, which I think they have plans to do, she's in an airlock. She needs to be spaced immediately. I don't care if that character was part of the original show. Do your own thing. Fuck that character. Drop it and move on. Because then I think this show could be interesting. Like, you can have conflict within a family. You can have, like I said, they ran into the other colonists. Any one of those colonists could have been, a credible villain. More than what she was. Like,
and that's the thing too. They don't need, like, I feel like a villain, given the circumstances the show is in or the characters are in the show. I think the perfect villain would be an authoritative, like, general dude. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like, I don't give a fuck about your family or anything else. We're here to survive as a whole and blah 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 blah. Just a hyper logical fucking robotic dude, like, I could understand not giving a shit about the dude who got squashed by the fuel tank. I think the circumstances need to change to make it compelling, but that's a situation that it's listen, we need to get fuel on these ships and get the fuck out of here. We're not picking the thing up and draining all the fuel we went to go get. We're not doing it, Yeah. And it's a shitty thing, but you can understand it at the same time. And I think that's where the show would really excel, given the situation that everyone in the show is in, and that's where it's frustrating. Like, these people are in such dire situations. And I think that I think the show would be a lot better if the situations they found themselves in, put the characters in, what's the best way to word it? If the answers to the situations required more sacrifice than what they have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or than what they did, versus just Dr. Smith being a shithead the whole show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously the way they structure the show, they, like I said, that the colonist leader, I thought, you could have maybe morph that into kind of what you're talking about to be a more militaristic kind of villain. But at the same time, I would argue that, like, again, I think this show is at its best when the villain of it is just the nature, the otherworldly nature of the planet, and them just getting fucked by, shit luck and,
That's
environments
cool
that they're not familiar with and stuff like that. Like, I think that, to me, is more interesting
than human
anything
problem.
else. Yeah, that's, I think, why the first half of the show to me is just infinitely more interesting, because that's exactly what the first half of it is for the most part, And then the second half is when, they meet up with everyone else, and then they're trying to work through the problems and, recommunicate with the Resolute. And I just kind of was just like, I'm checked out by this point. I don't care about any of these people at this point. I think that it would have been more interesting if you had a smaller cast, if you just kept it to the family, maybe one or two stragglers. I like the Don character. I thought he was a fun addition to the cast. I liked him.
Which is what we're going to get presumably in episode or in season 2,
Right. Yeah. So I like that. I mean, I think that that's a good dynamic, although there was definitely some, I don't know if I was the only one that picked up on this, or if maybe I'm just reading into things too much, but it seemed like once he clarified that the oldest daughter was 18, he was all about it. Was I misreading things? like his demeanor kind of shifted a bit more. He's like, oh, this is okay then. All right. I mean, I don't know how old that character is intended to be, but the guy that plays him is definitely probably close to 40 years old. Nothing inherently wrong with it, I guess. But
you got to populate
it was a little
the fucking
skeevy,
Starz, dude. I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do? She's 18. Whatever, man. Just let it happen. You're on a spaceship, floating through space. You're lost in space.
Yeah. I don't know. That was one I was just like, I don't know about this approach. It's a little odd. Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna go with it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about Dr. Smith anymore. We can move past that. She's a shit character. She needs to be removed from the second season, and I think that would get me more interested.
How about your emotional ties to the dad? Especially referring to him, just Dr. Smith coming up, whacking mom, and then blowing up.
Well, I just kind of assumed he wasn't dead because it didn't really seem to fit the vibe of the show. I thought it was kind of odd that he and the other dude are just chilling on this like piece of the spaceship that's just like just magically escaped unscathed. I'm like, okay. I don't know. I mean, that was just another thing. There's so much artificial drama in this fucking show that it's just, again, it's just like, it's like they know that they want to get them to that point, but they didn't know how to get them to that point. And they just did it in like a super logical way. Like fucking Will Robinson goes to, let me just go talk to this basically stranger that we've locked up in the basement of our ship, and she's like, look, I've got a little severed robot head. How did I know where this robot is? I don't know, I just found it, but he's here now, you can save him. Like come on, like, God, it's
come on, Will. Well, we'll
come on, man.
Test.
Yeah, it's like, God, it's tough watching it because it's just like, it's so dumb. I don't like, it's not even like a good. It's not even a good kind of frustrating. It's not a Joffrey. It's not a Ramsay Bolton. I guess those are two Game of Thrones examples. But those are villainous characters that are just complete assholes. But they're interesting to watch because they're such fucking loose cannons. I thought like Smith, everything she does just feels very irrational. Like she's not serving any sort of greater purpose or any goals. Like, let me just wake up and immediately knock the mom out. Oh, wait, we just blew up our possible chance of getting out until Poop Ex Machina comes in. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, a little angry Will Robinson breaks the poops.
Yeah, I mean...
So what you're talking about?
Yes, that is Poop Ex Machina. Oh, God.
Yeah, man, it's funny because you try to pull yourself away from Dr. Smith, yet you continue to talk about Dr. Smith.
I mean, she's in it too much. Like, she's such an intrinsic part of the show, and that's why, like, anytime like she's involved, it just brings everything down.
What do you think about that robot design?
Yeah, we can talk about that. It's a good way to get onto a different subject. I liked it better when it was CG. I thought when they kind of transitioned into the human form, and then it obviously is just a dude in a suit. I'm like, well, it's a little jarring. Like, I get it. That's a good way to save some money on the budget, but
especially when the pieces, like when he walks, the pieces are kind of like vibrate, like they're like moving about. You know what I mean? It did not appear to be an expensive suit. It looked like
actually, it reminded me a lot of the Flash season 3. Because you probably gave up before then, but Savitar was the big villain of Flash season 3, and he was like this big fucking dude in a metal suit. And for the first half of the season, he was completely a CG character. And then the second half,
I only saw CG.
Yeah, well, in the second half, I guess they gave him basically a physical suit, like an actual suit, and it's just super jarring. Like, it's just a big fucking dude in a suit. I'm like, it's just a guy in a suit. Like, it doesn't even look like the same character anymore. And the thing I didn't like about this one, man, I didn't mind the design of it. It just kind of felt like once they got away from it being CG, he didn't feel like a robot to me.
Felt like a man in a suit?
Yeah, there's a lot of times where they're not moving, like they're just standing still, and I was like, it'd be a good way to make him feel more robotic is if he's just not moving until like Will addresses him, and then he his head moves. But even when he's just kind of standing there, he's just kind of shifting about like a human would, and I'm like, that just to me feels like something that you could have added. I guess we don't really even know what it is. I mean, initially it's implied that it's an alien, then it's like, oh no, it's a robot, or it's an alien robot. I mean, what is it? We don't actually know what it is. Is it sentient? There's a lot of things that we don't really know about it, and they just don't explain. Probably something we'll get in a future season, obviously, but they leave a lot of that kind of unaddressed. So that's something for me that I'm like, well, if it's a robot, then I feel like it should behave more like a robot. But if it's actually sentient, if it's not that, then maybe that's why it kind of has those kind of mannerisms to it. So that might be nitpicky on my part, but that was just kind of the way I read it.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it was fine. I liked the robot when it was around. It was kind of a cool addition to the cast. But just I don't know. There's just little bits like the
fucking Dr. Smith. Man.
Dr. Smith. Yeah, that whole thing of it in the end was frustrating, especially when the robot like decided like, wait, never mind. I'm just going to be Will's protector again without any sort of explanation for that. I kind of was just like, there's no pre-established kind of like what we understand is that, if you help reassemble the pieces of it, then it will become loyal to you. I was like, okay, well, if they deconstruct it at the end and then they use that, that engine thing that they had on that deck there, then that would possibly re-energize it and then it's loyal to Will again. I was like, there's ways to get these to, points in the plot where things would actually make sense. Instead, they just decided to skip all that and say, fuck it, he's his best friend again.
Out.
I'm just like, I don't, like, okay, if you're going to do that, at least give some sort of explanation for it. Or, I don't know, it just, to me, like, it just felt like there was just so many leaps in logic that it's like, none of this makes any sense. There's just little things in this that are frustrating. Like, the whole first half of the show, we see Dr. Smith, like, watching the kids while they sleep. Because the doors are just completely open. I was like, I guess there's just not doors on the ship. Seems like a bad idea, but that's one thing. I was just like, okay, the kids all sleep with their doors open. I lived with two brothers and, my mom and dad. I guarantee I had my door shut when I went to bed, but maybe they're just a really open, loving family and all that good stuff. But then...
Until Dr. Smith comes on.
Yeah, but then they still have them open. And she's just like creeping on them while they sleep. And then later in the show, like I think episode 7, Will's in his room with his door shut. I'm like, wait, so they do have doors? What is this? I'm like what? Like that's so contrived. Like, God, like it's just little things like that. I'm like,
a lot of things have changed, man. Okay, I mean, if we're talking about the doors, you gotta. Well, little Will Robinson was sad. He wants to be let the fuck alone. That's fine.
I get that, but.
Oh, they're a loving family, dude. Don't criticize. Maybe Dad says you keep your fucking doors open.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean,
I had a
it's
situation.
Not a pothole, and then that's just me. It's very contrived. Feeling.
I had a situation like that at my house I grew up in. You keep that door open. You don't close that door. Okay. So maybe authoritative dad said you keep that shit open until strangers start coming in the house and stuff, and then
yeah,
he
that's
understands.
A little bit different. Did you have a situation where you got knocked out with a sedative, and then 15 seconds later you're up and moving, and you had revived a robot magically? Did that ever happen to you as a child?
Well, there was this one time I spoke out of line. Fucking got a sedative in the neck. No, I'm joking.
But you're up and moving 15 seconds later, because if not, then it doesn't qualify.
I was told I need to be a fighter pilot, but
okay.
Yeah, that dad caught some abuse there when they were training, didn't they? Knock him out with the. I think we're talking about two separate things, but
Oh, yeah. That was a fun sequence. I enjoyed that. I mean, that was definitely not a medically sound thing to do, of making someone, inducing blackouts like 10 times in a row. It definitely seems like that is a very poor idea.
His heart can't take anymore.
Well, you think? Yeah. Jesus. No, what I was talking about was, again, Dr. Smith. The daughter sets the trap with Debbie the chicken. She's like, what the fuck is this all about? And then she gets tranked in the neck.
Instantly. Boom.
And then, the daughter gets the mom into the thing, and then maybe 15, 30 seconds have elapsed, and she is not only good to go, she's clear of mind, and she's got the robot reconstructed and loyal to her. Okay. All right. Why not? Sure. All right. I think I'm pretty much done with this bitch session. There's just things in this that I'm just like, what the fuck? What? No. But it was totally fine, man. It was totally fine. I think that the whole season, personally speaking, I think the whole season would have been redeemed if the very last minute, the very last scene, the last line, someone says, I think we're lost in space. And then they turn, look at the camera, and then wink, and then boom.
Is this a callback to the old school, the movie? Or is this
I just think that it would have fit the tone of it. I just think I would have been like, fuck it. They went there, and I respect that. It's kind of what are we, some kind of Suicide Squad? It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that.
You know what I think would be cool is if we had like a deadite camera, like you're looking at the out of the window there, the fucking cockpit, and then you get like a deadite camera that goes all the way back to where Dr. Smith is at, and then it comes to her, and then she could be saying something. She could say the line, "Guys, I think you're lost in space," and then and then cut, and then that's your last fleeting moment of season 1 is Dr. Smith trying to talk her way out of getting out of the cabin. Of course, she is locked up with the fucking tentacle thing, the tentacle space motor or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Anyway, that's Lost in Space, the Netflix original series.
It's not. Yeah, it's nothing to write home about.
It felt good to get that off my chest, if nothing else, I will say. All right, I think we can move on to the bigger and better things I talked about briefly. I know you've been up to something pretty big and a lot better, so I'll let you talk on that and maybe anything else you've been up to this past week.
Yeah, so this week I traded in my PlayStation for a PS Pro and purchased God of War. I went home and I played it until my eyeballs hurt. It is a incredible video game. If you have a PlayStation, and if you have a PlayStation, you're obviously into video games, but if you can go out and get God of War, get that shit because it is awesome. Awesome. Emotionally charged, action packed, the mythology and stuff's cool. And it's just a incredibly well crafted video game. It's excellent. Also, I started, what did I start? I started Legion Season 2. Got caught up on that. Started watching that yesterday. Got caught up today. I think there's 3 episodes out so far.
Liking it so far?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's definitely I don't know, it retains that sense of style that it had in the first one. It's still wacky and crazy. Humor's still pretty good. It's an awesome TV show, man. It's a lot of fun. It's cool. And I think that pretty much does it. I've been playing a lot of God of War. I'm going to get off here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up what I've missed so far in shows. I know I got to catch up on. I got to watch the Westworld Season 2 premiered, I think, last night, which we're recording this on a Monday. It premiered last night, which is Sunday, and I need to watch that, and I need to catch up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Expanse. So I got some stuff I need to catch up on, but I am caught up on Legion. So I think I'll do that before I jump back onto the God of War train, because once that train starts, it does not stop. I found that out this weekend, and to my detriment. So
nothing stops this train.
What have you been up to, man?
Well, I would like to add another installment of the CW Power Rankings. I've watched through week 10 now, so this was all the mid-season premieres back in January. And a little bit of a shakeup here, out of necessity, actually. Legends of Tomorrow, they held its mid-season premiere until March, so basically they had that and Supergirl on alternating schedules. So, not necessarily in its place, but the new addition to the fold was the premiere of Black Lightning, which I watched. And I thought it was pretty solid. Not anything spectacular, but I thought it was intriguing, interesting setup. Seems like a good cast, and I like how different it is from the other CW shows. It is another show, I guess, kind of similar to Lost in Space, that it is much more concerned with the family dynamic. So Black Lightning himself is like a 40-year-old guy who has 2 teenage daughters, an ex-wife. And, there's a lot more entanglements and stuff like that. And he was formerly a superhero. He'd given up on being a superhero. And then, he's called back into action, basically, as of the premiere. So I like that it's a very different feel to it than everything else we have, where, all the other shows are, heroes kind of feeling their way through, learning their powers and, all that good stuff. And this one's just like, no, he's going back to what he knew. So That right now tops my power rankings because it was fresh, it was different. I don't know how the rest of the season is. I will certainly find out as I work my way through it. But it's at the top of the list for me, and everything else remains unchanged actually from that point. So Supergirl is sitting at number 2. It's fine. It's totally fine. As are all these shows here. It is what it is. Arrow, I have at number 3. They're still kind of doing their spin on Civil War, and I thought this episode was a little bit less contrived than that mid-season finale that they did, but it's still kind of okay, whatever. I don't really care. Riverdale kind of moved into a little bit different direction, which I thought was an improvement, but still, not necessarily anything to write home about. And then The Flash, I also thought was better, but still kind of the bottom of the pecking order overall. They did. It's the trial of the Flash, so he's in court for the murder of Clifford DeVoe, the Thinker. He's been framed for it, and I gotta say, those courtroom sequences were hilarious to watch.
Were they like A Few Good Men kind of sequences there?
Well, I mean, basically, his lawyer is Joe's girlfriend, and she's probably the worst lawyer I've ever seen depicted in the entirety of film and television, because her defense for him was that he's a good person. That was her entire defense.
And shit!
It's probably not going to go out. Probably not going to go too well for him.
It's not looking good, Barry.
She didn't bother to poke any holes in any of the prosecution's case. She just was just like, "Look, he's so good," and then that was it. And I'm like, "Really? That's what you're going with? All right. Well, it's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off for him."
Jeez.
So that's where I'm at with the CW stuff. I got through all of those through week 10, and that's where things stand. I've been listening to another album, the first release by A Perfect Circle.
What?
In 14 years. It's been 14 years since they've put out an album, and new album came out on Friday, the 20th. It's called Eat the Elephant, and man, it's more Maynard James Keenan goodness, man. It's actually really good. I'm still kind of listening to it a little bit more, and so I don't have a fully fleshed out opinion on it just yet, but what I've heard I've really liked so far, and it feels like Perfect Circle is picking up where they left off. Actually, I feel it's better than what they left off, because they left off with a cover album, Emotive, back in 2004. This feels a little bit, it's all original songs, so it's a little bit more in line with Merdinome and 13th Step. So
right,
good shit. Definitely check that out. It's on Spotify, of course. So it's the way to listen to it. That's really all I've been up to. I think I'm also going to follow a very similar plan to what you are going to do. I think I'm going to take at least a week off from trying to catch up on the CW stuff, and I'm going to try to catch up on all the TV that's basically premiered over the past month that I haven't caught up on. So I was kind of hoping to rewatch at least Legion season 1 or maybe The Expanse season 2 before I kind of started into the new seasons, but I just don't have time for all that. So I think at this point I'm just gonna start getting caught up on everything that's aired. So The Expanse, Legion, Westworld. I think I'm just gonna watch it all. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s another one that I'm one behind on. So that's my plan. Hopefully for this next week is to get caught up on the TV like you. So maybe we can talk more extensively about all those shows come next week when we do record. Other than that, I want to finally beat the Breath of the Wild. I've been talking about it for ages, and I've been meaning to do it for so long, and I just haven't quite done it yet. But I want to beat it so that I can start God of War, because I have it installed, updated, ready to go on my PlayStation.
Oh, man.
I'm well ready to go in on it. So my plan is to beat Breath of the Wild and then immediately go into God of War, and I imagine I'm going to get sucked into it just the same. So that's kind of where I'm at for this week. So I think that will do it for this episode of Watch, Review. Hold on. Is that right? Watch, Review, Repeat? I confused myself by saying it so slowly. I'm like, I've never said it that slowly. Like, fuck. I might have messed up her own name. Watch, Review, Repeat. Yeah, I got it right. We're good. Anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys enjoyed what you heard, of course, you know what to do and what to do.
Spread the word.
That's it. You can support us on Patreon if you'd like. That's if you go to our website, which is www.watchreviewrepeat.com. You can go to the premium tab, find info there, or you can go to patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. our bonus episode on the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 3 is available to listen to exclusively through Patreon right now. So I would definitely recommend you do that and get caught up on all of our Marvel Cinematic Universe episodes because, well, we're covering something that's pretty relevant to that very soon. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Again, website, watchreviewrepeat.com. We got links to our socials there. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and you can get in contact with us at our Gmail account, which is watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And back to what I was just saying, there's a reason you might want to get caught up on our Marvel Cinematic Universe episodes, and that's because a little indie movie by the name of Avengers Infinity War is coming out 3 days from recording this, which is fucking insane. My hype is reaching critical mass. It's reaching unsustainable levels. I might have to go on an internet blackout for a few days because I'm paranoid about getting some big spoilers kind of spoiled for me. So
I don't see it until fucking Sunday, dude.
You're gonna have to turn your phone off for that whole week.
Yeah,
It's better start right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
The internet is not going to be a safe place. So no, I'm going opening night Thursday night to the IMAX, and I'm thrilled. I'm pumped. I think I actually might see Black Panther tomorrow to complete my MCU rewatch properly.
Right.
And then I'll be ready to go. I'll be ready to go for Avengers. I'll be there very early, staking out a spot in line. So it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it delivers on the hype. And we'll be talking about it probably pretty extensively next week if I had to guess. So here's a good way to leave it. Do you think it's going to break the Force Awakens opening weekend record?
Holy shit.
Do you think it's going to do it? $250 million, give or take a couple mil.
Opening weekend?
Mm-hmm.
What do
you think? Yes or no?
I would say... no. I will say no.
All right. I was hoping he'd say yes so I could say no. I'm going to say it's going to be just under it, but it's going to beat The Last Jedi, which is number 2. So that's my bold prediction for how things are going to shake out. And we'll revisit that question next week because this thing's making a ton of money regardless. I'm just curious, how high can it go? That's where I'm wondering. So lots of things to talk about next week. So absolutely stay tuned for that episode and go see Avengers in theaters, contribute to that cause.
All right,
I mean, you're probably going to do it anyway, but just in case. We got. I mean, Disney's got to pass on some of that money back to us, of course. So, all right. Well, we've dragged this out far too long. So, with that, I will say, laters on the menge, and we'll see you next episode.
See you later.